Shall we begin? I think we shall. It is a non-bells and whistle version of the 5-pack. Welcome in. Kyle Elfrink with you on a Thursday. Apologize for the technical difficulties. I know a lot of you were looking at your watch and saying, hey man, 12 o'clock, where's Kyle? Well, I'm here. It's fine. We're going to take care of you. Do not fret. Great to have you with us here on the Better Sports Network each and every day at 12 o'clock Eastern. We run you through the 5 things that matter right now, 5 things that will matter for the evening to come. And yes, indeed, we will have a pack break today. We are checking out Fleer's entry into the upper end of baseball. Fleer 91, Fleer Ultra is what we've got. So that's what we're going to go with. I looked at this pack, and the funny thing to me, I just kind of noticed this right before the show. I saw the guy on the front, and I thought to myself, is he falling or is he sliding? Like I don't know. It kind of looks like he was, like a gun was fired into his lower back. And he's falling backwards. I don't know. That's Fleer's got issues with their cards. Like, you know, you go into the 1991 year and you're like, yeah, we're going to compete against Stadium Club. We're going to compete against Upper Deck. And then you come with this label? What? Like, I really don't know. Like, it almost looks like he's being pushed off the top of a skyscraper. It is 1991, and everybody was excited for Fleer Ultra. So anyway, we'll get to this at the conclusion of today's 5-pack. But we begin with the 5 things that do matter today. And unfortunately, here for the time being, I don't think we're going to have any graphics in the video. We are working on that, so do be patient with that. But I can begin with the first thing I want to talk about today. The first thing that will matter to you, I start you with a little college football. We've actually had a little bit of college football this week. We were talking earlier in the week about the SEC schedule. Update on that, by the way. Doesn't sound like the SEC is going to make a decision this week. What? Looks like they're going to be 8 games this year. Of course, 8 games probably as well for next year. And maybe we'll get to 9 games by the time 2025 rolls around. But there is something I'd like to talk about on the college football side. Yesterday, it was revealed what we will get to do on Saturdays in September, and a few other days as well. The powers that be, Fox, ESPN, ABC, CBS, they all came out with their early season television schedules. Now, you may not realize this, but it's a big deal if you're a college football fan. It's a big deal to me, too. Usually, we get some very good non-conference matchups, and I think this year we've got them. I will say one thing I noticed with the schedule coming out yesterday, and welcome to the 21st century. A lot of streaming. Got a lot of streaming. We've got games that are exclusively streaming. I think Peacock is getting involved in NCAA streaming. It's coming, folks. It's in 5 years. I just wonder, is CBS and ABC, are they going to air any games? I don't know. It may all be streaming. But beyond the streaming, for the time being, we still do have games that are on regular old-fashioned TV. So let's spotlight a few of them. In week 1, Sunday night, remember that first Sunday of the year, we don't see the NFL play our first Sunday of September, the Labor Day weekend. We don't get to see the NFL. They wait until the following weekend. So on Sunday night, we will have a big game, probably a pair of top 10 teams facing off. We've got LSU taking on Florida State. That game will be on ABC. That's Sunday night. There you see it, September 3rd. It's going to be in Orlando, so that is 2 top 10 teams going at each other. The following Saturday is a big one. This would be, Saturday, I think it's September 9th. You have Texas on the road at Alabama. Remember last year, we got a really good game between these two sides. That game was in Austin. This one's going to be in Tuscaloosa. That's going to be in week 2. Week 3, under the lights down in Gainesville, Florida, in the swamp. Florida is going to be hosting Tennessee, which is always kind of a fun rivalry game. in the SEC. We'll get that in week 3. Now, the other notable thing, and there's a lot of games, games that, hey, if you're a Boise State fan or a Baylor fan, you're going to care about those. But for our purposes here, the other thing I'll point out with the early season release, and this is probably the biggest news coming out of the TV schedule built for college football, which I will remind you, the ratings for college football continue to jump. Like, they're not NFL, but they're really, really good. We got a big storyline in Boulder, Colorado this year. Last season, the Colorado Buffaloes, they play in the Pac-12. They were 1-11. They were brutally bad. They were one of the worst teams in all of college football. If you look at week 1 and week 2 of this college football season, and you go to the number 1 spot for the television schedule, which for those who don't know, that is the big noon kickoff that Fox puts on. And occasionally, the SEC mid-afternoon game will top that. But in terms of ratings, the Fox game, 12 noon, every Saturday, that's the big sombrero. Guess who is being featured in the first 2 weeks of this season? It's the Colorado Buffaloes. Yes, that same team that went 1-11. Why? Because of this guy. Oh, yeah, Deion Sanders. Check it out. They are going to appear in both of the first 2 weeks of the big noon kickoff on Fox. So that's national television. They're at TCU in week 1. And then they host Nebraska in week 2. What is notable about hosting Nebraska, that's going to be like a 10 a.m. kickoff in Boulder, Colorado. And the Buffs were more than happy to say, hell yeah, come on in. We'll kick off a game at 10 a.m. on a Saturday morning. Not a usual kickoff time. That is the power of a personality. I mean, seriously, Deion Sanders takes this job, comes from Jackson State, hugely successful at Jackson State, which is a HBCU, but really successful. Now he gets this gig with Colorado. And for those who haven't been following the story, and Deion warned us of this. He had that famous statement when he got the job in Boulder. He said, hey, I'm bringing in my own dudes. If you're part of the old regime, don't expect to be here. Right now, I think at last count, the Colorado Buffaloes have 12 players on this year's team that were on last year's team. Everybody else is left or moved on or been kicked off. So Deion is changing things. You never see ever that kind of turnover in college football. But Primetime's bringing the turnover, and he's bringing Fox television and probably television programming from all over the country to Boulder, Colorado. Power of the personality. By the way, if you're looking at some early odds on college football championships for this season, even if you don't hugely follow the sport, you can probably guess like 3 of the top 5 teams. Just randomly throwing darts. Yes, Alabama. Yes, Georgia. Yes, Ohio State. The other 2 teams in the top 5 would be Michigan and USC. Georgia, by the way, is the top pick plus 210. Bama is second on that list at plus 550. And speaking of odds, Colorado, I had to look this up. They're over-under for wins this year. Remember, they were 1-11 last year. They bring in Deion Sanders. The over-under for Colorado with wins this year is 3.5, which I was kind of surprised by. Now, they do have a very tough schedule this year. But 3.5 is the over-under. If you like the power of Deion, the power of prime time, the over is plus 155 right now. The under is minus 180. So a lot of juice to that under on year number 1 of Deion Sanders in Boulder, Colorado. Anyway, there you go. Your September is set. You can now start reserving your lounge chair, your sofa, your couch, whatever it is. You can figure out which games you're going to watch and what days you're going to ignore the wife, ignore the kids. Schedule is set. Let's move to item number 2 on what will matter, or not what will, what does matter today. We go to Miami. Did somebody say Miami? Yeah, let's go down there because we got to talk about the Miami Marlins, who, despite all of our attention seemingly focused on like Tampa there are other good things going on in Florida. Let's take a look at the Marlins, who last night went into the bottom of the ninth inning. They were down 1-0 against the San Diego Padres, and they were facing perhaps the best closer in baseball, taking on Josh Hader. Well, the Fish, they didn't have an issue with Josh Hader.
Gura with a base hit tonight. Gurriel, the tying run at second.
On the ground by the dive of Bogaerts into left. Gurriel being sent around. Here comes a throw. It's cut off then thrown to the plate late. And up to second base goes Segura. The Marlins have tied it. The blown save for Josh Hader. Winning run is in scoring position now for Miami. This has happened quickly. Takes off for third base. Here's the throw to third. He is safe. Stolen base for Segura. Now just 90 feet away.
1 ball, 1 strike, 1 out, 1-1 game. Fortes, base hit into right field. And he's the hero as the Marlins walk it off.
Why did I want to show you that? Well, I wanted to show that for a couple of reasons. And first off, thanks to the footage, Bally Sports, South Florida, and also MLB Productions. Remember, Diamond Sports doesn't have the Padres anymore. So MLB Productions. Anyway, Marlins win 2-1. Guess what their record is in one-run games? They are now 16-4 in one-run games. Now, if that's not a stat that you follow, 16-4 is like mostly unheard of. But when it does happen, and it happens over the course of the season where you're winning like more than 60, 70% of your one-run games, you are then a team of destiny. That's what you are. They are 16-4 in one-run games. Their record overall is 29-27. Now, if I were to ask Joe Baseball fan, where do you think the Marlins are in the playoff race right now? They'd say, Marlins are doing okay, but they're not catching the Mets or the Braves or the Phillies. Right now, the Marlins are second place in the National League East. They are only 4 games back after that win last night. What's happening here? What's happening is Luis Ariz is hitting 380. Jorge Soler has 17 home runs. Brian De La Cruz, young outfielder for the Fish, he's moved forward. He's jumped forward. Much improved this season. On the pitching side, they've been pretty good with the starting rotation. Bullpen has been solid. They are not a great team, but they are a team that right now, if you said, hey, I'll take the Marlins to make October, I'll take them to make the postseason, you can get those odds at plus 200 over on the DraftKings Sportsbook. Right now, plus 200. And again, they would be in the playoffs if things started right here today. And you can get them at plus 200. I'll throw you another stat, another factoid with the Marlins. Outside of the COVID year in 2020, the Marlins, who are now 29-27, entering June, the Marlins have never been above 500 this late in the season. It's like 1/3 of the way in the season, but this late in the season since way back in August of 2017. So that's 6 years. Now, again, in the COVID year, they made the playoffs, but again, it was 60 games. That doesn't really count. So this is the best start that the Marlins have had in a half decade. I don't know if it's going to sustain itself, but a very good start and a big win last night. Today, they're taking on the Padres again. That is a 1:10 first pitch. It's going to be, Jesus Luzardo up against Joe Musgrove. And the good news for the Marlins, you win today. You beat the Padres again today. Guess what your reward is for the weekend? The Oakland A's. Oakland coming to town as they journey from the West Coast to the East Coast. So keep an eye on the Marlins. And again, plus 200. Not all that bad. Let's move to item number 3. What matters today here in the sports world? We go to Wrigley. They were playing yesterday afternoon. The Cubs hosting the Rays. Cubs eventually lose by a score of 4-3. But the big news was that their ace left-hander, Justin Steele, left after 3 innings on Wednesday afternoon against the Rays. And he left with forearm tightness. He actually had the crew and the medical staff come out in the middle of the 3rd inning. He stayed in, he pitched through the 3rd, and then he didn't come out for the 4th inning. When you hear left forearm tightness, you should start to worry. And I realize I'm saying the name Justin Steele, and even you baseball fans out there might be saying, well, Justin Steele, who cares? Justin Steele, very quietly, is a Cy Young candidate this year. On the season, he's 6-2. He's got a 2.65 ERA. He's got a 1.05 WHIP. Like he is in the discussion. He's not your winner. He's not top 2, but he's in the discussion, having a great season. Now he's dealing with left forearm soreness. Here is his manager, David Ross, talking after yesterday's game.
Back out there in the third, I think it was. I got word they had a little bit of throbbing in the elbow, but we didn't feel it throwing just as he was cooling down. So radar went way up, obviously. Talked to the trainers. They felt comfortable. Then watched him kind of pumping the hand and stretching the forearm a little bit, and went out and checked on him. He said he doesn't feel it at all. No tingling, no shot down the arm, anything like that. So I let him finish. And the more I watched him throw, the more nervous I got of a guy like that. So just went ahead, precautionary reasons, pulled him. He'll get some imaging tomorrow, and we'll go from there. But I think it's just some forearm tightness, according to the trainers.
That's before the imaging. I would suggest the imaging will put Justin Steele on the IL, and we probably won't hear like UCL or Tommy John or anything like that. But the forearm strays are usually precursors to that. So Justin Steele, who's been great through 2 months, we now cross our fingers. We'll get to see how long he's going to be out for the Cubs. As for the Cubbies, they're now last place in the NL Central. I was one of the guys who kind of liked the Cubs to maybe be a surprising second place finisher in the NL Central. Right now, they're 25-31. They are only like 5 games out. It's the NL Central, so they're not done. You know, I was referencing the 1-run record of the Marlins earlier, and here they are having a lot of success. They're 16-4. Check out the Cubbies. They are 4-11 in 1-run games. And that is a stat that really fluctuates from year. It's a very random stat. But when teams are winning teams, they somehow win a lot of those 1-run games. When you're a losing team, you fail. You miss out on those 1-run victories. Cubs are off today. They get back in action tomorrow. Let's move to item number 4 on what matters today on the 5-pack, and we'll sneak in a little G-League. Why the hell not? Earlier in the week, we talked boxing. What the heck am I talking about the G-League? I'm talking about the G-League, which is the minor leagues of the NBA, because the G-League, slowly but steadily, is becoming competition to NCAA basketball. Now, for Joe Blow sports fan, you're saying, what? I've never watched a G-League game. I've never considered watching a G-League game. I don't even know who's in the league. Guess what? I'm a lot like you. I know a few of the teams in the league, but I've never watched the G-League. It's relatively new, and honestly, it is competition to NCAA basketball. And yesterday, they became even more a competitor. A couple of the top prospects for next season's NBA draft 2024, both guys said, you know what? We're not going to college. We're going to the G League. Who am I talking about? Ron Holland, who is out of the state of Texas. He's the player there on your right. He is ranked number 2 in the class. He says, I'm not going to Arkansas. I'm not going to Texas. I'm going to the G League. The other guy on the left, 5-star prospect, Matas Bozelas. He's number 5 in the class. The Ignite have just added, and the G League has just added, 2 of the top 5 prospects in all of this year's class in high school. They're not going to Duke. They're not going to Kentucky. They're not going to UConn. They're not going to UCLA. They're going to Henderson, Nevada. And guess what? They're still going to make major NBA bucks. They're still probably almost certain to be top 10 picks. And guess what? They're probably going to make as much money in the G League as they would have if they'd gone to Texas or if they'd gone to Illinois. Even with the NIL money, you're still not keeping these guys from going to something called the G League. And just to remind you of what the G League has done, I looked up the number. In the last 2 NBA drafts, they have provided 6 top 10 picks. So 6 of the 20 guys drafted in the top 10 over the last 2 years have been from the G League. They're going to have another one here later this month. The guy going after Wembanyama, Scoot Henderson, he's from the G League. He'll probably go number 2, number 3. And both these guys that you're looking at, Holland and Bozelis, they're probably going to go top 5, top 10 next season. So I bring all this up because, again, we know what the NCAA tournament is, and everybody gets pumped in March. The question is, do you need really talented players for people to care about the NCAA tournament, for people to care about the NCAA college basketball season? My gut says no. And the reason I say that is because there is a lot, a great portion of the fan base is a fan base because of the school, not the players. Secondarily, we've been going through this for 15, 20 years, probably even longer now, of one and dones. So, Bozelis goes to Illinois. Holland goes to Arkansas. You get 1 year of those guys. Are those guys creating Arkansas Razorback fans? Well, maybe to an extent. But overall, you care about Arkansas. You care about Illinois. The players come and go, unfortunately. There are some players that stick around, but guys like this, they come and go. So, and then the third thing I'd throw out here is you have to understand, even when these top prospects go to the G League and they don't go to the collegiate ranks, you still have just other players who maybe aren't as good, who certainly aren't top 5 picks, top 10 picks. They just fill the vacuum. It's not like we look at them and say, oh, that guy who would have been the 28th best player in college basketball, with Holland going to the G League, he's still the 28th. But no, he moves up a spot. And the guy who was 4th moves to 3rd. So college basketball, they fill it up. You still are going to have a best player in college basketball. You're still going to have stars in college basketball. What's fascinating to me is that college basketball has created the NIL. College basketball has much more prestige than the G League. College basketball creates eyeballs, excitement. They play in front of 20,000 fans. I looked at the average attendance of the Ignite, the team in Henderson, Nevada. They get like 4,000 people a game. I don't know. You'd think a 17, 18-year-old would want that. Who knows, though? G League, though, throwing out some money, throwing out some prestige, and a couple of guys who you'd like to see playing next March in the NCAA tournament, they're not going to. Heading off to become pros, because, in effect, they are pros immediately. Item number 5, and this piggybacks on item number 4. I was just talking about greatness in college basketball. Last season, the Naismith Player of the Year was a guy named Zach Edey. Now, you may not recognize the name. I bet you recognize the dude. Zach Edey's like 7'3". He's a monster. He plays for Purdue. Best player in college basketball last season. Well, he has 1 year left of eligibility. Last season, he was a junior. He'd be a senior this year. He took advantage of the rule and said, you know what? I'm going to throw my name into the NBA draft. I'm going to go to all the workouts in Chicago, meet with teams, all that stuff. See where I'm expected to be drafted. Well, lo and behold, the best college basketball player in all the land last season, Zach Edey, was pretty well told by NBA teams that you're not a first-round pick. You're 30s to 40s. So, Zach Edey, per the rule, said, you know what? I'm skipping out on the NBA draft. I'm going back to Purdue. And because of that, we get the rare hype video for a player coming back to college.
Yes, sir. Right away.
Oh, yeah. Hype for Zach Edey. They should be. West Lafayette, Indiana, where Purdue's at, they've never made the Final Four. They obviously have never won a title. They now have a chance with Zach Edey back. They're actually a loaded team. Purdue's going to enter the season as a top 5 squad. Edey last season, 22 points, 13 rebounds, 2 blocks. He's 7'3". His wingspan 7'10". He dominated. And yet, in 2023, the NBA says, not even a first rounder. Isn't it crazy? That's why, especially if you're a big man in college basketball, it's really tough. It's really difficult to get the NBA excited about you. And maybe this has to do with, well, it has a lot to do with how the game is played. I mean, we're going to have the NBA Finals tonight. A majority of the shots tonight will be from 23 feet away, 3-pointers. That's how the game's played. It's been played that way forever. But it's fascinating to me that a dude who's 7'3", who doesn't have a load of injury issues, he's going to have them eventually, he's 7'3", dominated, shoots free throws well, has a decent jumper even. And yet everybody's like, come back next year. Give us a call next year, Zach. So we piggyback those two stories, number 4 and number 5. You know, we got these 17-year-olds skipping out on college hoops to go to the GLeague. They're going to be top 10 picks next year. Meanwhile, you have Zach Edey, who's going to now be a 4th-year senior at Purdue, and he can't get a nibble from the NBA, even though he's been utterly dominant. Interesting, but a certain changing of the landscape versus where we were like 25 years ago versus where we are now. I mean, like 25 years ago, if you were Christian Laettner and you played, 3-4 years, you were top 10 pick, top 5 pick. Now, if you're Zach Edey and you're playing 4 years, it's like, why'd you have to stick around 4 years? If you're any good, you're out of here in a year, maybe 2 years. He's sticking around for 4. Those are the 5 things that matter today here on the 5-Pack. When we return on BSN, let's get you set for a busy Thursday. Most notably, we're tipping off in Denver tonight. We will get you set for the NBA Finals next, right here on the Better Sports Network.
Did the Detroit Pistons just win the NBA's offseason? Now, I know they won't get Victor Wembanyama. They didn't win the NBA lottery, but they may have hit the NBA coaching jackpot as they are getting ready to hire Monty Williams to be the team's next head coach, replacing Dwayne Casey. Now, he is drawing a king's ransom, Monty Williams, but you know what? This is a guy that had 194 wins and 115 losses, turning the Phoenix Suns organization around. He's a 2-time NBA Coach of the Year. And in Detroit, he inherits a team with good young players like Jaden Ivey, Isaiah Stewart, Cade Cunningham, and the 5th pick in this year's upcoming draft, which they could use to trade. So the Detroit Pistons are a team that I'd be looking to bet the over on their win total next year. Curious of your thoughts on the hiring of Monty Williams. Leave your analysis down there in the comments section. And while you're down there, check out a special offer from our friends at Fantasy Alarm.
Back with you on the 5-Pack. Kyle Elfrink on the Better Sports Network. You just heard the executive Corey Parson there, giving his thoughts on the Detroit Pistons and their hire. We've got some NBA coming your way in just a bit. Before that, though, a reminder that you can get all access over at fantasyalarm.com. And right now you can get 6 months of everything that they present, 6 months of it for half off. That's right, fantasyalarm.com. All you got to do is use the promo code ALARM50. And I know today they've got new columns on football. They've got prize picks with DFS. On the baseball side, there's some afternoon action. So check it all out at Fantasy Alarm. And certainly as we get ready for the upcoming football season, you're going to want to take advantage of all their analysis, all of their best ball thoughts, their PPR thoughts, non-PPR thoughts. They are getting ready to really turn it loose for fantasy football in 2023. So you're going to want to be there. And right now you can get 6 months half off. fantasyalarm.com. And again, use that promo code ALARM50. Another thing we've got going on over there at fantasyalarm.com is we're teaming up with Underdog Fantasy. You just heard me mention best balls. If you are into the realm of best balls, you know that Underdog Fantasy is the place to be. They are the place to play. They are the place to be drafting right now and winning money come January. Right now, if you go to fantasyalarm.com/underdog and you enter the promo code Fantasy Alarm, all one word, Fantasy Alarm, you're going to get a deposit match at Underdog Fantasy up to $100. So you put in 80, they'll give you 80. You put in 100, they'll give you 100. think if you put it in 105, they'll give you 100. So make sure to take advantage of that. Again, fantasyalarm.com/underdog. You'd be foolish to play best ball and not play at Underdog Fantasy. You'd be even more foolish to not take advantage of that promo code. Okay, let's get to the 5 things that will matter. And as noted, number 1 with a bullet tonight. Didn't even have to think twice about this as I was putting the program together. It's the NBA Finals. They do begin this evening. We've got the Denver Nuggets hosting the Miami Heat in Game 1. ABC is going to be your home for all the coverage. Let's see. Tonight's game is tipping off at 8:30. Denver is favored by 8.5. Now, for the series, Denver is way up there. Minus 425 on the money line. Miami is plus 320. And I've given, my opinion many times on bets I like and bets I don't like. I, like many, I'm taking the Nuggets. Like, if you force me to choose who's going to win this series, Kyle, I'm going the Denver Nuggets. But I will say, to get Miami at plus 320, like, even if you're picking the Nuggets, you almost have to hedge on the Miami Heat. With that kind of payoff, plus 320, and with the way they have played in defeating Milwaukee and Boston and others, man, at plus 320, it's kind of like a gift. Like, if they were to win tonight, and remember, Denver's coming off a huge layoff. If they were to win tonight, you're getting a steal on that Miami at plus 320. So that is one of those bets where you can feel totally it's the other direction, like, oh, I'm going the Nuggets in 5, Nuggets in 6. But at plus 320, you're like enticed to make the move. At least to put a few bucks on the Heat. A couple of other notable odds. Nikola Jokic for a triple-double tonight is even money. Pretty impressive. Here's something even more impressive. Over at the DraftKings Sportsbook, Nikola Jokic to average a triple-double in this NBA Finals is minus 125. For him to be the Finals MVP, minus 360. Jimmy Butler, Finals MVP, plus 330. Again, throw a few bucks on it. Couple of other things I liked here. Will there be an overtime game in the NBA Finals? Yes is plus 300. No is minus 400. And then here's an outlandish one. The distance of the longest shot made in this NBA Finals by either team, over 47.5 feet, which I think, trying to think here, 90 feet, it would be beyond half court, I do believe. If there is a shot made from over 47.5 feet, plus 3,500. Why the heck not, huh? Surely, I mean, there'll be at least, I don't know, 8 or 9 shots. You guys are the NBA, man. They know how to make those long-range bombs. Would you bet against Jokic? Hell no. So plus 3,500 there. Okay, let's dig into this. We will start with some audio from yesterday. Michael Malone is the head coach for the Denver Nuggets, of course. He's going to be matching wits with Erik Spoelstra. And one thing he will be matching wits with on the other side with Erik Spoelstra is the idea that the Miami Heat are going to try everything in their power to slow down Nikola Jokic. That is the game plan for each and every team that plays Denver. How to slow down Jokic. Pretty well 90% of them fail. Michael Malone was asked about the idea that perhaps the Miami Heat will try to pull Jokic down just a notch or two. Not stop him, but pull him down just a notch or two with a lot of zone defense in the NBA Finals. Here's what Coach Malone said to that.
Use zone more possessions than anybody. I thought their zone and their pressure back to zone was key in that last series against Boston. I thought, it gave Boston trouble. But as you mentioned, we've seen zone all year long. I think we have one of the better zone efficiencies on the offensive end. Right now in the playoffs, I think our offensive rating is, maybe the best it's ever been for a team in the finals, and we're prepared for it. And if we do see the zone, I think a lot of teams, when they see a zone, will panic, and instead of just playing the game and getting the ball into the middle of the zone, using dribble penetration to collapse the zone. And the other thing we talk about is, like, if we call a play and they're in zone, just run the play. And this is not college. Bam Adebayo cannot stand in the middle of the paint. He's got to cleanse himself at some point. So, and the last thing I'll say to that, is the best zone offense is your defense. If you get stops and rebounds, that makes it really hard for a team to fall back into a 2-3 zone and try to take you out of your rhythm.
I just love when we get something besides the usual crap at a press conference. Like, seriously, 85% of it's crap. What you saw there from Michael Malone, not crap. So good stuff there. How about the big names in this series? Nikola Jokic and Jimmy Butler. Those guys will be the primetime players for tonight and beyond in this NBA Finals. The Nuggets have not played in, 10 days now? Long rest for them. And Jokic was asked about that long layoff leading into tonight.
Good professional approach to those 8 days, 9 days, 10 days, whatever it was. Just because it's actually a long break, and I think we did a good job. We stay in the shape, getting ready, staying sharp, but still get enough rest. But about the opponent, we're gonna see tomorrow. Is that true or I'm lying?
We'll find out if he's lying tonight. Other aspect of this is, of course, you're playing in Denver. It does not matter the sport, baseball, football, basketball. Everybody talks about the altitude in Denver. I wanted to play a quick clip from Jimmy Butler's meeting with the press yesterday, because I thought he had a rather unique and interesting way of dealing with the altitude in the Rocky Mountain City.
Drinking some water, listen to some music. I think that's the formula. You just got to listen to music, drink water, drink wine, play spades, and dominoes.
Water, music, wine, spades, and dominoes. Now, my guess is, I am not a scientist and I don't play one here on BSN. My guess is 4 of those 5 are not medically approved for dealing with the altitude. Water, I think, water cures everything, right? I mean, you really can't drink too much water. Wine, music, spades, and dominoes. I don't know. I mean, I guess if Jimmy Butler goes off for 50, we'll have to all start drinking wine and playing spades when we go to Denver. It'll be fun tonight. 8:30 ABC with Game 1 of these NBA Finals. Should be fun. I know Denver's a heavy favorite, but considering what we've seen the last month from the Heat, do you really feel great about them being such a heavy favorite? I don't. I wouldn't be putting money on the Nuggets. I like them. I think they win, but we've all been burned by the Heat, haven't we, for 3-4 weeks now? Let's go to item number 2 on what will matter. Coming up later this afternoon, the Arizona Diamondbacks are back in play. They are looking to defeat the Colorado Rockies. First pitch in Phoenix is at 3:40. Why am I spotlighting the Diamondbacks? I want to spotlight the Diamondbacks because guess what? Guess what? The Diamondbacks with a win today would tie the LA Dodgers for the NL West lead. Furthermore, with a win today, the Arizona Diamondbacks would tie for the best record in the National League. Did you know? You probably didn't. They're playing some really good baseball. Last night, they got off to an early lead against Colorado. Corbin Carroll, Lourdes Gurriel. Those 2 guys having great seasons. Like, I was looking at it today. Corbin Carroll, the rookie, has a pretty decent shot at going 20-50 this year. 20-50. Lourdes Gurriel is having an awesome rebound season. Remember when that trade was made in December and everybody said Toronto won the trade? Well, guess what? Arizona's winning that trade. Winning it pretty easily with Moreno and with Lourdes Gurriel. Those guys are out producing Dalton Varsho. No doubt about it. So, good stuff in Arizona today. Again, 3:40. Zach Davies going to be on the hill. Looking ahead to the weekend after this home game against Colorado, Atlanta comes to town. So keep an eye on those Diamondbacks. I will tell you this. A win today, again, will tie the Dodgers at the top of the NL West. Arizona is still plus 750 to win the National League West. LA is minus 370. Playoff odds for the Diamondbacks actually minus 120. So the expectations as of now is that Arizona makes the playoffs. Moving to item number 3 of what will matter. It's here. It's back. It's All-Star voting time. Yes, indeed. Major League Baseball has released their All-Star ballot. This is not like the good old days. In the good old days, you'd have to go to a ballpark and punch out perforated circles. Those were the good old days. I would get myself like 15, 20 ballots on an afternoon at the ball yard, and I'd sit there and I'd actually think. I wouldn't just vote for the hometown guys. But the ballot is out. It's now online. They've also made this more confusing. Like, seriously, voting has begun. It now runs for like 3 weeks. It ends on June 22nd. On June 22nd, baseball comes out and they give us the top 6 outfielders, and then they give us the top 2 at each position. So National League, American League, 2 catchers, 2 first, 2 second. And then we spend like 4 days having to vote again. They call that phase 2 of All-Star voting. So we are in phase 1 of All-Star voting. It can only be done online. You can only vote like 20 times a day or something. This was a lot cooler and more fun back in the 80s and 90s. But then again, you had to go to a ballpark in order to make the vote. I distinctly remember it was like one of the highlights of every game. Like once you got to June and July, like literally one of the highlights of every ball game I ever went to in those months was seeing the usher walk down the aisle with a big pile of ballots, and he'd just pass them out, and he'd pass them out down the road. Back when people hung out with each other at the ballpark, passed things to each other. I guess they still pass beers to each other. But I miss those days. Stuffing the ballot at the ballpark. July 11th, by the way, for the All-Star game. That's going to be in Seattle. One thing to follow is Mike Trout. Mike Trout is trying to get his 10th straight fan-voted start in the All-Star game. We have not had a player be voted in for 10 consecutive years since Cal Ripken. I think Ripken's streak ran about 13 years. Trout's at 9. He's looking to become the first guy since Ripken to make it 10. Item number 4 on what will matter. We got some news yesterday from HBO that they are putting together a documentary. And hey, does HBO do the best documentaries? Probably not. I think when it comes to sports, probably ESPN is still at the top. But this documentary is taking some of the talents from ESPN, some of the other sports doc talents. I won't bore you with the particulars, but the guys who are in charge of this doc, they know what they're doing. What is the subject of the doc, you ask? Well, I'm glad you asked. It's a guy who knows a lot about doctors. Barry Bonds is getting an HBO doc. Now, they announced this yesterday. It's in production right now. It's being done right now. There is no release date. But I wanted to spotlight this for 2 reasons. One, are we going to hear from Barry Bonds? Like, this guy is a pariah. When you think of the steroid era, despite the fact that he was never caught, despite that, he is the guy who is the poster child. Never caught. Roger Clemens was caught. Alex Rodriguez was caught. Rafael Palmeiro, Andy Pettit, Mark McGwire. All these guys were caught. Barry Bonds never was. Yet he is the guy everybody blames for the steroid era. So now we're going to get a documentary on a guy that most people hate. And we don't hear a whole lot from Barry Bonds. He'll make appearances in San Francisco and say a few words. But I would love, you remember The Last Dance, ESPN, their 5-6 part series on the Bulls and the final run to the championship. One of the great things about that was you got a ton of Michael Jordan, a ton of Scottie Pippen. You got all this like behind the scenes stuff. Give it to us with Barry Bonds. I hope he agrees to be a part of it. I just want to hear the side, and actually, maybe he'll come clean. I doubt he will. He's Barry Bonds. He hasn't come clean for 20 years. But maybe HBO will figure it out. So good luck to them putting together that doc and getting the approval. If you're not even the approval, just getting Barry Bonds to participate there. 5th and final item that will matter. It's actually mattering as we speak. Jersey City, New Jersey. Right now, what is this? The Mizuho, I think is how you pronounce it. Mizuho. The Mizuho Americans Open has teed off. Why do I care about an LPGA golf tournament in Jersey City, New Jersey? I care because a young lady named Rose Zhang is going to be teeing off, making her first ever professional appearance. Why do we care about Rose Zhang? Because quite simply, Rose Zhang is like the Tiger Woods of golf. She's 20 years old. You see her there holding up another trophy from Stanford. She has dominated the collegiate ranks. Now, you might recall Tiger Woods went to Stanford too. Rose Zhang did as well. She has been the #1 golfer in all of NCAA golf for the last 140 weeks. She has won the Amateur Grand Slam, which I'm told is the Augusta National Women's Amateur, the U.S. Women's Amateur, the U.S. Girls Junior, and the NCAA title. This is the biggest debut in the LPGA since Michelle Wie, about 20 years ago. Rose Zhang already has sponsorships from Callaway, Adidas, Delta, Beats by Dre, Rolex. She's got a lot of oomph behind her. She's turning pro. She'll be in all 4 majors. This weekend in New Jersey is her first pro event. And again, there's a lot being thrown on her shoulders. She has now the thing is, and this goes for the men's and the women's, PGA and LPGA, you don't get a whole lot of golfers. You get them definitely, and there are good ones for sure, but not a whole lot of golfers actually go through the collegiate ranks before turning pro. In fact, in the LPGA right now, only 1 of the top 10 golfers did go to college. So Rose Zhang trying to kind of break that trend, dominating in college, and now going to the LPGA. So something to maybe keep track of as you go through your weekend. That does it for the 5 things that will matter on this Thursday. A quick break here. Ricky Props has his NBA Finals pick, and then we are back to rip open some 1991 Fleer Ultra baseball cards live right here on BSN.
Hey, it's Rick Kamla for Better Sports Network. Who do I have winning the NBA Finals? I got Miami in 7 over the Nuggets, plus 950 exact result odds on DraftKings. Denver has more talent than Miami. But so did Milwaukee, so did New York, and so did Boston. Miami has by far the best intangibles in the NBA. That's why they are here. Aaron Gordon is not going to shrink Jimmy Butler. Karl Anthony Towns, Kevin Durant, and LeBron James all fared well against Gordon in previous series. Gabe Vincent's going to be a problem for Jamal Murray with his sticky defense. Jamal Murray averaged 15 points per game in his last 5 regular season meetings with Miami. Tyler Hero should be back for game 3, maybe earlier. 1 game against Denver this year, 26-10-5. And Miami is the best road team in these playoffs. 6-4 overall, 3-0 in game 1s on the road. Be sure to check out the comments below for a special offer from our friends at Fantasy Alarm.
Time now for the Daily Pack Rip on the 5-Pack with Kyle Elfrink.
Yes, indeed. And today we are opening some premium Fleer baseball cards, 1991. And as noted earlier in the show, this is the only baseball pack that was created with an image of the trust test being done. Right? And then where the people stand behind you. You just fall blindly backwards. Isn't that what's going on here? Like I said, I don't know if the man is sliding or if he's been punched. I just don't know. Now, another problem I've got with these cards, remember, these were to compete with Upper Deck, Top Stadium. Like, there's no giveaways. I don't even know if there's inserts here. I mean, like, seriously, Fleer, come on. If you're going to do it, do it. They have made this pack pretty difficult to open. This may be one of the rare teeth packs. Oh, no, I'm not going to have to use my teeth. Okay, let's see what we got here. 1991 Fleer. Now, as usual, the top cards are like the heroes of the 90s, you know, like Ken Griffey Jr. and Don Mattingly and Nolan Ryan. This is kind of cool. I mean, honestly, this is something you could throw on the side of a cooler. An old Phillies emblem. In fact, I may do that. I've got a cooler laying around. Having a cool old Phillies emblem would be kind of nice, right? So thank you, Fleer Ultra. If nothing else, you're going to decorate my my summer cooler. So I would put a team sticker. There it is, the old Philly P. That may be the highlight of this pack. Let's see what we got. A lot of gray with Fleer Ultra. I don't know why that was like the thing to do with Fleer, but they went that way. I will say the first card I'm seeing here has got some good action. Can't complain about this. Shortstop Greg Gagne avoiding the slide at second base. Turning 2 with the Twins. Now, 2 Ultras credit. Nice photo on the front. They've got the team, they've got the position, they've got the name. It's very clean. It's just kind of boring. Also, to their credit, the back. Look at that. You get 3 extra photos. Now, the problem is if you're a stats nerd like I was back in the day, you get 1 year of stats. Are you kidding me? Come on. I mean, is it more important to have the like, do you really want that, great, what is that profile photo? Like, this is Greg Gagne's dating app promo photo. There you go. I can get rid of that photo and give me some more stats. But anyway, that's the route Ultra went. 1 on the front, 3 on the back. We will stay up the middle. Dick Schofield, who was nearing the end of his career by now. I'm kind of surprised. If you had told me Dick Schofield would have been a part of this 1991 set, I'd say, nah, he retired in 89. Well, he was still playing in 1990. 99 games worth. He had a robust 1 home run. Dick Schofield. He was a mostly glove no-hit shortstop. Here's another mostly glove no-hit middle infielder. But man, I tell you what, if you were to get your child and say, hey, Walter, this is how I want you to field a ground ball, you'd show him this photo of Scott Fletcher. Look at that. My God, he's going to lose an eye. Takes a bad hop. Holy moly. We got a shiner on our hands. He is down to field that ball. Scott Fletcher. Little guy. How tall was Scott Fletcher? 5'11", and yet you look at the back of his card. Look at that. He's got that big leg lift. Looks like he was going to crush it. He crushed all of 4 home runs. Let me see the total home runs from these guys in 1990. Scott Fletcher had 4. Greg Gagne had 7. And Dick Schofield had 1. We got 12 home runs from these middle infielders. Man, terrible. Even worse than those 3. A checklist. A GD checklist. Come on. Oh, wow, a double-sided checklist at that. Wow, on the same day here on the 5-pack that we talk about the documentary with Barry Bonds, we get another dude who was totally a part of the roids era. In fact, he won an MVP, and afterwards he admitted, I was roided out. Ken Caminiti. And Ken Caminiti, unfortunately, not proven, but unfortunately suffered from an early cancer diagnosis after his playing days and passed away very, very young. And some people associate that with the heavy steroid use. This is in Houston. He won the MVP with San Diego, I believe, what was that, 96 or 97, that Caminiti won the MVP. And he was a great, great hitter back then. Man, one steroid convict deserves another steroid convict. Sammy Sosa. This is Sosa in his, I guess this would have been coming off of his second year. Started with the Rangers, then to the White Sox, or was it White Sox, Rangers, then Cubs? It may have been White Sox, Rangers, then Cubs. But Sammy Sosa, check it out back of the card. Little guy, right? Yeah, little guy, Sammy Sosa. What happened to that little guy, huh? I mean, back in this day, he was good for 50 stolen bases or so. Here is a man who has one of the great nicknames of all time. Lonnie Skates Smith. Won a couple of World Series in the 80s. A young Sandy Alomar Jr. This is right when the Cleveland Indians were piecing together their very strong core, if you will, for the 90s. And Alomar Jr. was very important to that. This would have been his second year. Derek May, Cubs outfielder, mostly a fourth outfielder. Funny to see, isn't it? This is 1991, and yet still today, Wrigley Field has the same bricks sitting back there. This is just an awful, embarrassing photo of Craig Worthington. What in the hell are you trying to do, Craig Worthington? Is that a check swing? Is that a bunt? I would assume he's trying to bunt here, but Craig, that is not how you bunt. One of the favorites. If you grew up in the 80s or 90s, you didn't even have to be a Reds fan. You loved this guy. Eric the Red. Eric Davis. Just a joy. Absolute joy. Eric Davis right there with Strawberry in the what could have been package. And of course, he and Strawberry grew up pretty well miles from each other. I think they were both from the Crenshaw region out in L.A. But man, Eric Davis was just cool. See, he even did the flip down glasses in the outfield. Eric Davis was just a cool dude. And to this day, you'll see cool kids wearing a number 44 Reds jersey. Greg Harris, not so cool. And you will not see anybody wearing a Greg Harris jersey of the Boston Red Sox. Here is Jay Howell, right-handed reliever for the LA Dodgers. I don't even know who the hell this guy is. Donnie Hill. Sorry, Donnie. Maybe next time. I'll have to look you up after the show. He and Dick Schofield made for a truly awful Angels infield back in 1990. And we close down the pack with Robin Ventura, who I don't know. I guess if you were to, what is Robin Ventura known for? It's probably getting the hell beat out of him by Nolan Ryan, which it might have been right about this time. Now, Ventura hitting from the left side had a really cool swing. And, of course, he became a White Sox manager later, lasted a few years there. Ventura was like, you should look up his stuff. I think he went to Oklahoma State in college and had some massive, massive seasons. He had something like a 45 or 50 game hitting streak in college. And so when Robin Ventura was drafted by the White Sox, he was expected to be the bee's knees. And he was very good. He lasted throughout the decade with the White Sox. But didn't become a superstar, just a good third baseman. You know what? This set wasn't half bad. I had a lot of memories, and that's what the Pack Rip's about. It's reminding you about Eric Davis. It's reminding you that there was a guy named Craig Worthington who didn't know how to bunt. And it's reminding you that, Kyle, you should get to know Donnie Hill. All that in today's 5-pack. We'll do it again tomorrow, 12 Eastern, right here on the Better Sports Network.